I'm another failed student of the guitar. It was quite an experience. I enjoyed it very much. He actually loaned me his guitars, and I think I've given them all
I
back.
think so.
And Shelly asked me to read, and I'm going to read it. We've all memorized it, the 23rd Psalm. I mean, it's one of the most popular psalms in Scripture. And I just want to put that a little bit in context. King David, which David is David, you know, King and Dave. But King David was suffering a great deal, and in Psalm 22 he was expressing his anxiety with life, enemies surrounding him, internal, external, and screaming for God's support. And in verse 19, about 2/3 of the way through, he says, "Oh, my strength, come quickly to help me." And then he rolls in to the 23rd Psalm, which is a psalm of peace and a psalm of love. And as a shepherd, of course, he writes about his experience as a shepherd. And he goes on to say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." And you can imagine Dave reciting that in his mind. "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." Those are two tools that the shepherds used to fight off wolves or whatever. "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." And we know you're doing that right now, Dave, and you're at peace, and we just miss you very much. And thank you.
Thank you.
Always got to keep this cane or something. Keeps getting away from me.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dan Embick. I am Dave's nephew, and I am not a failed guitar student because I never tried. So my only musical ability was a little bit of piano lessons many, many years ago. So, but what I wanted to do is read this letter from Dave McCleary, who is Dave Hall's best friend. He's in the white shirt in the picture over here. And this is coming from Dave McCleary. "Dave Hall was my best friend for nearly 60 years. Our families attended the same church in Palo Alto, California, but it was not until high school that we got to know each other. Here was another kid named Dave who was also rather skinny, nearsighted, and suffered from allergies. He was like a clone of myself. I soon learned that we shared a love of fast cars, music, dogs, and we had a similar sense of humor. We bonded immediately. At the same time, another Dave, Dave Peterson, also in the picture here, became good friends with the two of us. The three Daves made it very confusing when someone would yell, 'Hey, Dave.' The three of us had many years of great times together, including camping trips and some mountain man rendezvous events. The three Daves became the three amigos until Dave Peterson's untimely passing. He's in the picture, like I said, in the photo over here. As teenagers, we cruised a local A&W in my '58 Shelly. You can remember that A&W. Over on El Camino. Later, we attended countless bluegrass rock and blues concerts. We also enjoyed playing Frisbee and always kept one handy for an impromptu game. Perhaps most importantly, we could always make each other laugh and spend a lot of time doing just that. Even when we attended colleges in different states, we kept in touch on a regular basis. After Dave and Shelly got married, they moved to California, and a whole new era of fun and friendship began. Nobody can throw a Halloween party like Shelly. There were also camping trips to the coast and to the Russian River, wonderful pizza and movie nights, as well as many summer days in and around the swimming pool at my house. Dave was truly my brother from another mother. and I will continue to miss him greatly. I will always cherish the wonderful memories of a lifelong friendship.
Thank you.
This is a great time for all of us to share. We're going to have open comments. Be thinking about what you might want to say, and if you can, kind of condense it a little bit, because if everybody goes too long, we'll all mutiny and be leaving here early. So, and we have food. We don't want the food to get stale. So anyway, we're going to start the open and what we'll do is we're going to start with Bill. He's going to get us going here, and then after he's finished, then you could just stand up where you're at and make your comments, and then
Or you
hopefully
can come up and be recorded.
yeah. Oh, you want these all recorded? Okay, then we'll have you all then come up here and get behind the podium to get recorded.
Do I look all right? I want to make sure that I'm...
Sorry, Bill.
It's okay. My name is Bill Lawton. I live 2 doors down from the Halls. I think you start off every talk with a joke, and I think Dave would like this, and it is clean. The guy comes home from the doctor. His wife says, "What did the doctor say?" So the doctor gave me a note. Says I'm supposed to have daily sex. She says, "Let me see that note." No, it doesn't. It says you're dyslexic. Okay. Okay, I knew that the Halls had moved in, but never had had much with them until Snowmageddon. And I had access to a small tractor with a bucket. And I looked down at this mess down the street, and I decided I should go down and help. So I'm moving stuff around in their driveway, and Shelly gets done. She walks over with 20 bucks. She says, "Would you do the neighbors across the street?" And I told her she didn't have enough money to make me do that. So anyway, I did it for free. Okay, now Dave, we found a lot of things about him. First off, food. He really liked his hamburgers, and he liked his fish and chips. I believe that his last meal out was with us, and we went to Chili's to have a hamburger. So that was something we got to do. He loved his dogs. Tess, not so much. But Fermi was like his life. That's the way it was. He liked riding around in old cars. One day we loaded the 4 of us in our 1944 military Jeep and went down to Boise and had a great time. Liked riding in the Pierce Arrows, did all that, and I found out that he had had a Volkswagen Bug, and then later on they had a Volkswagen Camper that sounded like it had no power. So I decided in June of 2020, I had just put together a Volkswagen Bug for our son in California. It's the first engine I'd put together in 25 years. Had everything working mechanically. The car was a little rough, and I said, "Come on, Dave, we're going." So we jumped in and we whipped down to the parking lot at the fairgrounds, all empty. Get in behind the wheel. So Dave is now driving after 7 or 8 years. And basically, I'm going, "Well, you can turn here." You know, I'm telling, and he was doing a really good job. But so, and I have a picture here. We can show people, but that's me riding with him at the top in the Bug. So then I got to thinking, and I said, we got to do more. So not, a week or 2 later, I took our Pierce Arrow down there, and now he got to drive the Pierce Arrow around. So we can leave these pictures up here. So he got to drive the Pierce Arrow. So those were probably the last cars he ever drove anyway. Let's see. Oh, and he did like puns. his jokes, yes. So anyway, I think that's about all I got to say, but we really miss him. We had a good time with him. And are these pictures going to be on here? I think so.
Yeah, some you can leave them there too.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, goodbye, Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next would like to come up and share?
Anybody?
We will have you come up here because we are taping this for someone. Go ahead.
I have a few things to say. So I can continue with the theme of failed guitarists. And on a I got my first guitar, the story's kind of interesting. We were going to the bluegrass things that Dan wrote about, and the bluegrass as fiddlers. And when I was in elementary school and all the way to the high school, I played the violin not well. So I thought, I want to try that again. So my mother heard that. She always wanted a violinist in the family, and later found out my father hated the violin. That's another story. So anyway, she put it together, and so I brought the violin down to our house in Palo Alto. Turns out I found out my wife hated it as well, so I was sent to the garage if I ever wanted to practice. I'd go out there, it was nice and quiet and peaceful, and I'd start playing, and all of a sudden I heard all these dogs barking. I knew this wasn't going to work out. So,
Was it Tess?
no, it wasn't. It was some other dog. So I don't know if it was her idea or Dave's idea, but they conspired, and that following Christmas I got a guitar. And took some lessons, and then Dave, of course, could always give lessons. He was really good. Dave was a very good guitarist. And, but I didn't do that well there. The one thing I could never do is to bar a chord. If you know anything about guitars, that's kind of important. It was so frustrating. So Dave bought me a ukulele after we moved here. That would be simple to do. Well, I didn't make much progress in that. Dave was very tolerant. Our paths first crossed when we got married, and we enjoyed Dave his entire life, so much so that we named our second son Dave. So he's got a namesake. And I got to thinking, well, yeah, I know what a namesake is, but what do you call the person you get the name from? And I actually had to look it up. Anybody know? It's called the name take.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever heard of that? I've never heard of that before. Bill mentioned that Dave liked puns, and I'll just tell you a quick one there. We emailed for 25 years or so over time, and it was good for both of us, since we both had jobs maybe at a time were a little stressful. We get an email, and that would make the day. And then we like to do puns. And then the one I went back and read a lot of these, and the one that I liked, and I told Shelly this one, is that Dave wrote and said, well, Shelly's starting a job at an ophthalmologist today. So I thought, So I typed back and said, well, I hope she doesn't make a spectacle of herself. And, I got him on that one. Well, within a minute, back came this one, and it said, well, you must be a pupil of a pun master to be able to frame such a question as that. But his quick wit was always appreciated. And he's helped me over the last years. I do a lot of the, I don't know if anybody do the WordPress on iPad or Wordle, you know, where you're doing words, things like that. If I got stuck, I would take a picture of it and send it to Dave, and he usually would solve it. And then being the honest Dave that he is, he'd say, well, sometimes I would submit that to the computer and it would come back with all the 6-letter. Yeah, we've enjoyed over the Dave as much as anybody, and I guess that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
No,
Yes.
I haven't. Yeah.
Come on up.
You just can't get rid of me. So, for those of you who don't know me, I used to live here in Great Sky. And I had a home here, and my mother had a home here, and I sold my home to Dave and Carol, and I sold my mom's home to Barb and Michael. Thank you. I'm not Dave.
My name's Wayne now.
Sorry, Wayne.
That's okay.
I'm not the best speaker in the world, so I get
honored,
very
actually.
nervous, so my apologies. My main reason for being up here is because my memories, I'm gonna get through this. I have some very fond memories of Shelly and Dave and the others that I mentioned, Wayne, Carol, and Barb, and Michael. We formed a little group called Crazy Eights. And we went out to lunch on a regular basis. And we just had the best times trying out different restaurants, finding the best burger joints. Dave was always there with a smile on his face and great humor, despite all of the health problems that he had been through. So Tom and I obviously moved away. And we live in Napa. We're not that far away, but it seems like Napa's a world away from here. And I do miss this group, miss these people, and especially miss Dave and Shelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else?
Thank you, Pete.
We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead, Pete.
Well, my name's Gene, and I am too a failed guitarist. Yeah, that's perfect. Dave.
Sure, that's perfect. Somebody else? Yes.
We all enjoy your splinterisms.
Yes.
They're just,
Oh,
yeah.
I forgot to mention the best one of all about the spoonerism, I was gonna mention that, is that Dave attended an English class in San Jose State. And the instructor says, okay, we're talking about spoonerisms today. Anybody know what it is? And Dave's hand shot up, it's the Merd Wix-Up. Now with Dave, I don't know if that came out unconsciously or if he put it together. I'm not sure which one it was. Merd Wix-Up.
Well, I'm just up here because we live right next door to them, and so I've worked from home for many years, and my room that I use as my office is would be next to like the bedroom or the family room at their house, and so many times I would hear Dave playing the guitar, hear his music, and really enjoyed that. It wasn't loud, it was just nice and peaceful. So
Even when he had the electric guitar?
Yeah.
You sure about that?
You can hear the tune a little better.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly never complained about it. And then also just miss him walking with the dog and stopping to chat now and then. So yeah, he's missed.
Thank you.
Someone else? And also when we get finished here with the comments and all, we'll have time when we're eating to share with each other as well, or if you want to get everybody's attention, just holler and then you could give another one. So we don't have to do this now if you're kind of shy about getting up here. Go ahead, Carol.
Well, I'm going to be like Lisa, I'm not very good at this, but we had so many wonderful times when Dave and Shelly would come over for a non-alcoholic beer and a glass of wine, and Barbara and Michael next door, and that's when we learned all about Dave and his puns, and he was so much fun, and he's really missed.
Thank you, Carol. Somebody else? Okay, Shelly?
Oh, now you got me going. I want to thank everybody for coming today, obviously. Appreciate you here to remember Dave. But mostly, I want to thank you for your patience with him. He enjoyed you all so much. It was such a good move up here. And riding in the cars and the Pierce Arrow and the Model A, he just, it was just wonderful for both of us, and especially him, because it was so hard for him to get out and socialize for so long. You guys would draw him out, you'd talk to him, you're patient, it was just wonderful. The meetings at Jim's house, the breakfasts that you had at the church, and it was just great. I appreciate everybody, giving him a little more time to talk, and he needed that. When Dave was no longer able to perform his most important chore of getting rid of spiders, Bill and Jim both stepped up and saved me from huge ones, both alive and dead, and I know they will continue to perform that service for me. You will be getting calls. I can't do it. Those friends and family who knew Dave prior to our move to Idaho remember a very different person, one with a great sense of humor, a passionate guitar player, and a wordsmith of excellent puns. We had lots of great times camping at the coast, exploring the east side of the Sierras, and the big adventure of raising Nephew. Dave is the only person I ever knew who could answer the Zen riddle, what is the sound of one hand clapping? He could actually do it.
The skinny wrist.
Yes. He was the youngest of three. His brother Tom is in California, Merla, actually Maryland, but that's what Dave always called her, so most of the family calls her Merla, except Rich calls her Maryland. He was the only native Californian in the family, born in Santa Cruz, raised in Palo Alto. His parents, Jim and Georgine, were absolutely wonderful people. I was so lucky to have them as in-laws. Tom and Dave played boogie-woogie music on the guitars, and Tom would play on the piano, Dave would be on the guitar, and we would just have a blast when we visited Tom and his wife, Liz. Big sister Merla, husband Rich, moved to just around the corner a couple of years after we came to Idaho, and Dave was thrilled to have them so close. Dave loved his nieces and nephews, Jennifer and Christine, Dan, Dave, and Kathy. He was always happy to see them, spend time with them. He worked over 30 years at Stanford Hospital, supporting the nursing department, where he made lots and lots of friends. He knew everybody there. It's a big hospital. One day, a world-famous heart transplant surgeon sat down next to him and told him quite a joke. You can ask me later. And then we have to mention his friends. They've already mentioned Dave, and Dave. Dave McCleary has been an enormous help to me during this whole thing. We had the absolute best times with Dave and his wife Diane in Mountain View, and we would be laughing until we could hardly breathe. It was just great. With Dave Peterson, he shared a love of music, K-Fat radio in particular, and Jim knows what that is. And a little odd music, but a little different. And photography. The larger friend circle included Henry, with whom they had some really wild and crazy adventures. There are lots of friends from our years in Newark and from Matt's school and Boy Scouts. We have the Durhams, the Shucks, the Kelmans, the Jacuzzis, several more, and of course our Indiana friends, Mike and Jill. Jill is here. Our closest friends, even though they're 1,500 miles away. And they even got Dave to go to a disco in the early 80s. Dave at a disco. That was incredible. At times I was almost tempted to find a facility for Dave when things were getting really hard, but I couldn't do it. I kept him home because it was more comfortable for me to be home. And with the amazing help of Keystone Hospice, it was possible, if not easy. The food was way, way better at home than it was in any place where I could have put him. Not that I'm a great cook, but it was better than those places. But mostly I kept him home because I remembered the person Dave used to be. And because that's what he would have done for me. Especially when I thank Jim for conducting the service, Wayne for his psalm reading. Amy has done such a wonderful job keeping me put together. And Jill for her help coordinating this event. We've known each other for 55 years. So, and I also want to thank my cousin Lynn. She was a wonderful friend to Dave, and she's been a huge support for me. Jill has put together a video slideshow. I promise it's not too long. There are some amusing pictures I think you'll like. And after that, Jim will have a closing prayer before we have lunch. You're going to like this. You'll see Dave as you haven't seen him before.